What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react to this news headline, which says NATO is choosing Canada over the United States for some pretty huge projects and investments. And I don't know. Turns out for the US, I guess it's not the best strategy to go insane and piss off all of your allies. Yeah. Who would have thought? Not a good idea. And on the flip side of this, things seem to be going pretty darn good for Canada. And so today, I'm actually very interested to take a look at this and see what all of this actually means for the United States and for Canada. Because we're definitely not jealous at all. No, no, no. Definitely not. So let's take a look.
We're following big developments in the defense sector this morning. Canada is being chosen to host a new multilateral defense bank, which aims to provide long-term financing for defense projects to potentially dozens of countries.
What? Whoa. I mean, congrats, by the way, because that seems really significant. This is a bank, first and foremost. So it's like for financing, like, I don't know how much detail they're going to go in about all this, but for one thing, that sounds like all of the countries involved in this, all the NATO allies and stuff, are placing a enormous amount of trust in Canada in particular to host this bank and this money and the financing. And it also sounds, pretty lucrative for Canada as well. So that's not exactly what I expected, because that sounds like a really big deal. It's a bit obscure, though.
Aims to provide long-term financing for defense projects to potentially dozens of countries.
Like Canada is going to be financing like a bunch of other countries' militaries and defense and stuff, and that sounds like a huge deal.
So this all comes as NATO is reportedly set to announce that it's going to select an advanced Canadian surveillance system for its air fleet, shifting away from its previous system that comes from the U.S.
Oh my God. It's a disaster for the United States. It's a disaster. I didn't know it was like that. I thought, it was already kind of painful, for the US from our point of view. Like, okay, we're not getting picked for like, especially for like some kind of military stuff. Because, selfishly, maybe it's our ego. I'm sure it is. But for military, we think that's our thing. Like, we do military stuff well, and we certainly spend an ungodly amount of money on developing and doing that sort of thing. And anyway, the thing here that hurts extra for me is NATO. This is like some kind of surveillance tracking. Yeah, it's a radar surveillance system. NATO was using an American system. And now they're shifting towards a Canadian system. It's not that NATO had to choose one or the other, and it's like, okay, we're going to Canada because that's the better one, although that may be true. It's they were using a US system, they are throwing that one away, and then now pivoting towards the Canadian system, which, again, if I'm sure, like, most of this is probably because the Canadian systems and the option to choose Canada for these things makes more sense and is probably better in many ways. And I got to give you that credit, but I can't help but also think part of this is undoubtedly because a lot of countries, Canada included, want to start pivoting away from relying on the United States for important stuff like this. We're not trustworthy enough for this. Man, that is painful to say out loud. Like, we're not trustworthy enough for this kind of stuff. Wow. Okay. Let's keep going, though.
System for its air fleet, shifting away from its previous system that comes from the U.S. Joining us for a look at these stories and more is retired Major General Scott Clancy. He's the former Director of Operations at NORAD. Always great to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's start with the bank. We were in competition with other nations for this. What do we gain, first of all, from hosting it?
So it was maybe a competition between many, many NATO countries. This isn't all just like Canada versus the United States. I understand maybe that from my point of view, when I make it out like that, it's like a little, again, egotistical. Like, obviously, every competition is against us because we are the best and we are the front runner. It's like, no, I think they were choosing between a lot of different countries. So that's actually like way more of a compliment, like a huge accomplishment for Canada to be the de facto country out of all these NATO countries to hold this the bank. They're talking about the bank.
Well, there's Canadian jobs really at the core of this, but it's a lot more than this for Canadian industry and all of the participant nations, countries, industries as well. Like the Defense Resilience or Security and Resilience Bank is basically the ability of small companies to access funding in advance of government defense contracts. Yes, governments might be able to access some of that funding, but governments pay for defense contracting out of budgets, that they own as nations. The best thing about this is that small startups that rely on contracts or procurement orders in order to fund their innovation and their research and development could now access that in advance. They could get those loans, that capital in advance to be able to start up their ideas, be able to incubate those things, either in Canada or the other countries that are participants around the world, especially in NATO.
Sounds pretty cool, honestly. So we're definitely getting a bit in the weeds here, but this seems to be NATO developing what wants to be an opportunity for a lot of smaller projects and businesses and little initiatives for all sorts of countries, it sounds like, including Canada, of course, where it will be based, but all sorts of countries who want funding and like to take out loans and debts and stuff to try to for research or development or these different military projects, which, we're all allies here. We're all NATO. So honestly, that sounds great. Like this could be great for everyone. So good.
And that is going to accelerate basically defense innovation.
Bigger picture here, what does this signal about international security concerns that this type of funding is needed so quickly to build up defense systems in the first place?
You're right on point. I mean, it's a volatile world. We've moved into a more hard power, defense oriented, watch your sovereignty with military force as opposed to the hard force. But it is also,
Again, not to make this about the United States, but is this about the United States? is whenever now they're talking about like why are so many countries now concerned so much about boosting their military and their defense and the most up-to-date technologies, and why now more than ever? Certainly because we're in a time, a day and age where there's a lot of turmoil and uncertainty and literal military conflicts happening right now. Still Russia and Ukraine, and now the US and Iran. And that all makes sense that maybe everybody is just more on edge and preparing for the unknown. But I don't know. Part of it, what they were saying there made me, I couldn't help but think, like, is this preparing against the US in case we're just totally crazy and just, which I have to admit would make sense to me in a sad, embarrassing way. Um, is part of this like countries just want to be ready because the United States is so unpredictable, but also like, the world in a sense.
Also a signal that the economic elements that are involved in defense are extraordinarily important. The stronger you are interconnected with your allies, the less that you have to fear from them. By having a defense bank here in Canada that links us to innovation across the NATO allies and other partners makes us all more resilient.
This sounds great for Canada, by the way. This sounds amazing. For, like he's saying, from a relationship standpoint, like all these countries are going to be going to Canada or for taking loans or money or investments for the military applications and stuff. And again, for Canada, like loans generate money. So Canada is also going to have all these great military relationships and making money. It's like this sounds great for Canada. So obviously this is definitely something the United States would have wanted. Make no mistake, like there's no doubt in my mind that Donald Trump is very upset about this.
Banks benefit whenever anybody borrows. So who benefits in this bank?
That's a great question. I'm not really sure. The element here that I believe of a bank that's like this, where it's focused on the public good, is that any profits that are consumed by the bank end up being just available as more capital to more startups. So it's like
Huh.
having a nonprofit that actually sells something. The profits from those go right back into the bank and go right back into defense innovation, which is available to Canadian companies. And don't forget, defense.
They're, it's funny because they're kind of talking about how they're kind of tiptoeing around like this will make money for this Canadian bank. This will make money for Canada. And they're like, well, we will reinvest it into our friends in other countries and to more loans. And it's like, it's okay, Canada. It's okay if you are making money from this. That's fine. You're providing a service. You're not taking advantage of anyone. Like, it's okay if you're making money. It's good.
Defense innovation also spills over as a lot of defense products are dual use.
All right, speaking of defense products, second point, NATO was looking to replace this aging air warning system they had. It was made by Boeing. And while no official announcement has been made yet, there is European media reporting the alliance is going to choose a Canadian surveillance system. So what system would they be implementing?
Wow. I didn't even know that Canada did stuff like that. I don't know that much about the Canadian military or your technology, to be honest. I just know that here in the United States, we are all about this. It's actually like embarrassing for us that we're not getting picked, just from our point of view, because, like, let's be honest, I think we spend literally the most money on developing our military than any other country in the world, and many countries combined. So this is supposed to be our kind of thing, and we're getting replaced. We're not just getting picked over, but kicked out and replaced by Canada. Which again, it sounds like the U.S. system was old and out of date, which is embarrassing for us. And the Canadian system, they're going to say more about it, but it sounds like it's just better.
So this is the Global Eye. It's a future system. So the system is not operating right now. The jet portion of it, which is built by Bombardier. And this is a consortium between Saab and Bombardier. You know, so how much we have changed in the 5 years since I left NORAD in 2021, where the E7 wedge tail made by Australia was the thing that everybody said was going to replace the E3 Sentry program that is in the United States and in service within NATO.
Okay.
The Americans walked away from their wedge tail plans, which NATO had latched onto as well. This opened the opportunity for this company to come in and field this system. So it's developing technology. It's on the pointy edge of technology built here in Canada, but it also is signaling, because the Royal Canadian Air Force is looking to procure a number of systems to enhance our surveillance here at home, supporting NORAD, but also supporting, our forces worldwide.
Wow, it's a lot of info, but the US like dropped the ball on this for some reason. Like we stopped caring or stopped developing this, or that's a major mistake by us because Canada has come in and seems to be glad to take that. Um, so can't really fault you for that. I don't know what we're doing in the. That's disappointing to hear from for us. Like I don't know what we're doing, what my tax money is going towards. And this Canadian, it's they're being vague. It's like a Canadian surveillance or radar system, clearly for aircraft. I don't know if it's for detecting things. They say maritime in the detecting in the water or enemies or missiles or I don't know. It's still in development, but this is just like when like Canada has picked up this contract basically to develop this technology for NATO, which seems pretty big, pretty important stuff.
This signals if NATO buys this, that the Royal Canadian Air Force is in a good stead because it's more than just a Canadian procurement to rely on.
I can see
Sure.
the smile creeping up on the corners of your mouth on that news. Listen, from sky to under the sea, South Korean submarine manufacturer Hanwha is looking to up its bid to build Canada's undersea fleet. Just before this deadline hit, they said, look, we're willing to commit to building armored vehicles here in Canada to try and sweep.
What's all that? What can, huh? Canada's getting Canada's getting Korean submarines. Okay. All right. I think that's the end of the segment that I was most interested in, although there's clearly a lot of stuff going on with Canada and your military and defense and NATO and Canada stock in Canada as a country is like soaring. From my point of view, seems to be like really amazing, exciting stuff. So the future looks bright for the United States. I don't know. I more and more I find myself asking the question like, what are we doing? What do we have to look forward to? What are we developing? We're just like fighting over a strait, the Strait of Hormuz, or in Iran, or and oil and gas prices are going up. Like that's what's happening here. That's and Trump is mad at Germany. So it's just the more I see this stuff, the more I am disappointed in us. I think it's cool for Canada, and yeah, literal examples of Canada, sort of triumphing over the United States. How else can you really put it? And I think Americans, we should really like be opening our eyes. Not to say we should be mad at Canada, but like mad at our leadership and the direction we're going in, because like we used to be like the guy for this kind of stuff, and now we're not. Maybe that just means things are changing. Kind of like what Mark Carney's been saying, like the world order changing. I don't know. Very well could be. This would certainly be the science. So, very interesting to take a look at this. A lot of thoughts. So, anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on these NATO investments going to Canada instead of the US, and that'd be interesting to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canadian things that I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.